Sanitary District Board of Directors to order and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Director Kildee.
Here.
Director McDonald.
Here.
Director Morgan.
Here.
Secretary Little.
Here.
Chairman Craven.
Here. Mr. Kildee, could you lead us in the flag salute,
Certainly.
please?
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any amendments to the agenda?
No amendments, Madam Chair.
Public comments. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to the Board of the Camarillo Sanitary District? Seeing no one come forward, we'll move on to the consent calendar.
Move the approval.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the consent calendar, which consists of the minutes. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Comments from staff? Comments from board members? Meeting's adjourned.
I'm going to call the Camarillo Successor Agency to order. Do we have any changes to the agenda, Mr. City Manager?
No amendments, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Roll call. Let the record reflect that all board members are present. We don't have any. I have no public comments cards on this one. Is there anyone who wishes to address the successor agency? Seeing none, we'll move to the consent calendar.
Move the approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Please vote. That motion passes 5-0. Departmental items. A, who's got this?
This item will be presented by Interim Finance Director Misty Chang.
There you go.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. The item before you tonight is a resolution to approve the preliminary official statements and bond purchase agreements for the successor agency bond refunding. So previously, if you'll recall, in September of 2016, successor agency had approved the refunding of the Series 2006 housing bonds, Series 2006 bonds, and the Series 2009 bonds. In other words, they had two components. One was a housing and one was a non-housing. And so, therefore, the reason why there are actually two resolutions each is we want to keep the housing and the non-housing to be two separate issues. And actually, in light of doing so, it was actually more cost-effective to keep them separated, as the housing bonds are actually rated A and the non-housing bonds are rated A-. And so it was more cost-effective to break them up instead of doing one large issuance on the refunding. After the approval last month, on September 15th, we did submit a letter to the DOF, Department of Finance, at the state level. It takes up to 60 days for that approval. We're a little bit over halfway through. We should be expecting to close the bonds around the 1st of December and get that DOF approval sometime, actually I think it's November 21st. So we have several processes still to go through of getting a credit agent rating, a surety, bond insurance, and so forth. However, because of the time that has passed, including that 60-day DOF approval, originally I had stated that we were going to be saving $6.6 million, and then at a study session, and then it fell down to $6 million. What did I say? $6,600,000 in savings. And it fell down to $6 million worth of net present value savings. Today, unfortunately, the savings now is only $5.4 million. So the market has fluctuated a little bit. I mean, still a tremendous amount of savings. But unfortunately, we have an election coming up, and the interest rates may increase in December, depending on the feds and what they do. So that will, affect what we ultimately are able to sell the bonds at. I have Kurt DeCrenis, our financial advisor, in the audience, as well as Marianne Goodkind, our bond counsel, to answer any further questions. Otherwise, this concludes my presentation.
Any questions from the board members? Anyone? We've been through study sessions with this, folks, and she's done a great job. In one sentence, tells everybody what this does. One sentence.
It saves money.
There you go. That's all. So know that we save money by doing this action.
3 words.
Any other questions, comments? Bill?
What is, I may have missed it, the calendar that we're talking about, when this thing would be brought to the market and everything?
I believe the first week of December is when it's set to actually close. If you want more specifics, Kurt DeCrenis has the actual
Kurt,
calendar.
why don't you come up and answer
I also
that?
have a follow-up question. Is this going to be,
Thank you, Misty.
is this going to be an open market or privately placed?
This bond issue, Kirk DeCrenis, financial advisor, this bond issue will be sold by negotiated sale. So the agency went out to RFP for underwriters, and there were 2 firms that were selected. One is Stiefel, one is Raymond James as co-manager, and the sale will be negotiated with them. And the reason on other city and agency deals, we have done competitive sale. That's been the preferred way to go. But in this case, the bond rating on the tax allocation bonds are A and A minus, so they're not of the same very high rating as the city's general credit. So, and they're redevelopment bonds or tax allocation bonds, and post-dissolution, there has not been a competitive bond sale in California of tax allocation bonds. So they're all negotiated because, from an investor standpoint, it's because of the change in state law and the redevelopment. It's much more. It's not a good bond to sell in a competitive sale at a given point in time. So they're negotiated, and the schedule is for this. Once we get the bond rating and we get the state approval for the bond sale, which will happen, I think, right before Thanksgiving. The schedule is to actually negotiate the sale of bonds the first week of December, and during that process, the bonds will be pre-marketed by both firms to a range of investors, and then we'll go through a back and forth to see, where the orders are and where things could be improved and so forth. And one of our jobs as financial advisor will be to work to make sure that the agency gets the best deal it can from the underwriters. But that should be concluded in the first week of December, and then the bonds will close, I think, before Christmas. It's got 2 weeks later.
But we will receive a significant reduction, not just to not make it worthwhile paying for doing this.
Well, I mean, I think right now the savings are, as Misty said, $5.4 million or 13% of the bonds refunded, which is very high. In the past, and in most debt policies in California, 3% PV savings is the benchmark for having an acceptable issue to go forward on. So we're way beyond that. Of course, if rates go up dramatically, let's say something happens in the presidential election unexpected and the bond market really falls apart. I mean, it's gone up about 30 basis points in the last 3 weeks. So it's been backing up like 1/4% or more. Like if all of a sudden there's a rout in the bond market and interest rates go up, a full percentage, which seems very unlikely to me that that's even possible. But if it were to happen, and the savings were not acceptable, then the deal wouldn't be done.
Good. That's all.
Yeah.
Deal won't be done if it good.
That's right.
Other questions, comments?
I
Please.
move to adopt a resolution approving a form of preliminary official statement and a bond purchase agreement in connection with the issuance of the tax allocation refunding bonds, Series 2016B, subordinate lien, and authorizing certain actions related thereto.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Please vote. That motion passes 5-0. Do we have another motion?
I move to adopt a resolution approving a form of preliminary official statement and a bond purchase agreement in connection with the issuance of its senior lien tax allocation refunding bonds, Series 2016A and A-T, and authorizing certain actions related thereto.
Second.
Motion, second. Other comments? Please vote. And that motion passes 5-0. Legal counsel, we have any items, anything you want to talk about?
No. No items.
Comments from staff? Any other staff members want to say anything? Board members, anything from board members? Then we will adjourn. Folks, this is going to be the fastest meeting I've been through, I think, since I've been on this council. Now, let's call to order the city council. Ms. City Council, please come to order. Let the roll reflect that all council members are present. Do we have any amendments to the agenda?
No amendments, Mr. Mayor.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, no amendments. Okay, now let's move into presentations. There's no presentations.
However, Mr. Mayor, I would like to take this opportunity to make some introductions and to say
There you go.
a well-deserved thank you. First of all, I'd like to introduce to the public and reintroduce to this council our new finance director, Jeannie Wilson, who comes to us via Goleta.
Stand up, everybody
And
see you.
so we're pleased to have Jeannie here.
Welcome.
And she's already hit the ground running, and she's in her second week. So we're glad she's here. And also, I want to take this time to give a heartfelt thanks to Misty Chang, who came in as our interim finance director, really did a great job, helped us with some issues that came up in the interim that we needed to take care of, and not a question as to whether it could be done or anything. It's just she just got it done, and she came to us highly recommended. And now she's going to go off and help another city in need. So she's kind of like the Wonder Woman, Rescue Woman of California finance, and kind of jumps in and gets everybody straightened up and ready to go for the next finance director. So we're really glad for that, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
We with Misty here, thank you, Misty. With Misty here, she's doing what she's doing. She's going to find out what all the little problems are in other cities and know how to solve them all. So someday you may end up being what you want to be. You told me you want to be a city manager maybe someday.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for also being here and helping and learning and being at our meeting the other day, our investment meeting. Okay. Consent calendar.
Move the approval.
We have a motion to approve the consent calendar in a second.
Second.
Kevin? Okay, any other comments? Please vote. That motion passes 5-0. We have no city council items, finance center. We do come down to city manager startup weekend, Ventura County.
Mr. Mayor, this item will be presented by our assistant city manager, Tom Fox.
Your Honor, yes, this item is to consider having the city be a sponsor to the this year's, or actually it'd be next year's, Startup Weekend Ventura County event. This is becoming an annual event, and basically the goal is for it to develop technology-driven businesses to address local needs for two sectors, agriculture and healthcare. It's a weekend-long event where participants sign up who are interested in starting up businesses. At the event, there are business mentors and subject matter experts in the fields of agriculture and healthcare or related fields that come together to study problems or issues in the area and see if there's any businesses that can start up to address those. The first event was in March of this year that about this time last year, the volunteers came forward and requested that the city be a sponsor. We agreed to sponsor $10,000 or pledge $10,000 for the agricultural category. Each category, if there's a declared winner and they are truly ready to start up a business, then there would be a $10,000 prize awarded to help them with that startup. The requirement that we attached to that was that the business would have to start up and reside in Camarillo at least for a year. The next event is scheduled for the weekend of April 21st to the 23rd next year. It is intended to really follow the success of the event earlier this year, but with some refinements to really serve as the blueprint for the Chamber of Commerce to follow. This is, again, a Chamber of Commerce event that they will be continuing to manage on an annual basis. The city is again being requested to pledge the $10,000 for the agricultural category with the same stipulation that the business would, if it truly is ready to start, would start up and reside in Camarillo. The request falls right in line with our economic development goals, of course, to bring new jobs to Camarillo, but also particularly jobs that are addressing an unserved need in our community, which this would accomplish. So we are recommending support for sponsoring the 2017 Startup Weekend Ventura County event with $10,000 to the agricultural category, again with the stipulation that it be a business that start up and reside in Camarillo. Be happy to answer any questions. We also have Gary Cushing, who's the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce in Camarillo, available for questions.
There he is. Any comments, Gary?
I have a question.
Question? Go ahead.
My understanding is last year you didn't have a winner in that category, so we did not spend the 10.
He needs,
Your Honor, I can probably answer that. So, yes, a good point. And that is, we're pledging $10,000. The $10,000, again, is only to be awarded if a business is truly going to start up. Now, in each of the two categories, they will always pick a winner. There will be some winner of the event, but in the case in March, in the agricultural category, while there was a winner, they were not ready to start a business, so therefore no money was awarded, and we never had to pay out on the pledge, so you are correct.
Okay. So we would have, I guess Gary will answer, if you don't mind, can he come up and answer my question? So this year, so that one, they won, but they're not ready. If they were ready this year, they'd have to go through the process again. They couldn't rely on last year's winnings, right?
Right. Right.
Okay.
Once it was deemed, the judges deem it on that weekend, if that is really a product that could make it to market and they have enough expertise in their group to move it to market. And theirs didn't have it. And so the judges deemed it was the best one there for agriculture, but yet it didn't meet the threshold of getting the $10,000.
So could that same group come back this year and go
They'd
through the
have to have
process?
they'd have to have a new idea and a new product.
A whole new idea, too.
Yeah, they can't come back and recompete, no.
I gotcha. And I have one other question, if I might ask. I got an email regarding Conejo's, and they're not calling it, there's Startup Weekend, but there's another piece in it you probably know about. Do you see and it looked much larger, it had a lot more sponsors, I don't know if it's the same size and they just have more sponsors, or is this something you're looking to get to, or just kind of
Conejo's is actually, if it's the one that's in connection with CLU, yeah. Theirs is put on, and they didn't get as many people as we did last year.
Really?
Yeah, because we had 70 participants last year, and they didn't have that many. And theirs is kind of an open forum, so it's anything that people want to come to, and ours is on healthcare and agriculture. And they don't have, and Martin, he's flying back to Taiwan tonight to spend 2 weeks, so he couldn't come here tonight, so darn. But ours is really directed, and we have a lot more mentors there that are from the industry to help these groups along.
Okay.
And we're also trying to come up with makerspace and co-working space in Camarillo, so when they do win, we have a place for them to reside.
Okay, good. All right, thank
Other
you.
comments, or Charlotte?
I have a question, not about this one, but how are the winners of last year's doing?
There are still 5 groups moving forward. 3 have actually have hired employees, 1 or 2 employees, but 5 of them are moving forward. So,
Very good.
Joel, you had a question?
No, I'm ready to make a
Kevin?
I have a
motion.
question. Yeah, Gary, how are we going to market this about how much money that the city is going to put into this? In other words, are we going to market it as, the city is going to put the $10,000
Oh,
out?
absolutely.
How do we?
yeah, and in all the publications, it will go out that the city of Camarillo is sponsoring the sponsoring the agriculture at $10,000 level.
Okay, and how do you market? Is it email? Is it?
Well, we've done, if we go by last year's, we put out about 30 different press releases. Each company that is involved put out their own press releases that they were involved in it. We do, Startup Weekend also has a site that they market it. And in fact, the 2017 site's already up for next year.
Okay, and so we'll be
You'll be
Very
included in all that
well
sponsorships.
played as the sponsor here.
Yep.
Okay, good.
And we'll ask the mayor for next year to come and be there with us.
Okay, great.
I have
Thank you.
a question.
Bill?
Do you have a sponsor yet for the the medical side
No.
of? You are still looking for that?
Yeah. And if we did, like last year, we didn't have a particular company stood up, so the money we raised for the startup weekend, we had internal funds that we had raised from other sponsors.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments? Motions?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion.
I move that we approve an appropriation of $10,000 to sponsor the 2017 Startup Weekend Ventura County Agricultural Category for Business Startup in Camarillo.
Second the motion.
We have a second. Any other comments? Please vote. That motion passes 5-0. Now let's move to City Clerk. City Clerk, it's yours for once in a while.
Yes, this item comes to you, as you'll recall, from the Camarillo Post of the American Legion. They asked the city to consider adopting regulations to allow remote caller bingo to provide additional fundraising tool for them and other nonprofits within the city. The state does allow cities to authorize remote caller bingo if they adopt the regulations allowing it. Apparently, several cities, at least 19 in California, have already adopted the regulations, and I checked around. There doesn't seem to be anything controversial with the activity. So the ordinance that we've presented to you is based on the language in the penal code, and it would allow remote caller bingo in the city. And Dennis Furchill from the American Legion is here. If you have any questions about the game itself, he seems to be quite knowledgeable.
Dennis Furco.
Good evening, afternoon, or still afternoon, I guess. Mayor and council members, I do appreciate it. I do thank Jeffrey's assistance in putting together the package and informing you. You should have already received, you should have already received a lot of the information as far as the bingo, and it's remote, okay? What was needed to change, obviously, in which your city attorney had looked at, was location would needed to be changed for this particular item, because it is done, the actual bingo plan, I'll say, is done in Sacramento, but then it's broadcast to the different locations. In our case, it's our American Legion of Department of California has got several of the posts that they're the ones that play, and that's their pool. Okay? And then a large percentage of the monies that we receive goes to our Department of California Veterans Administration. Not the VA national or, federal, but to California. Our American Legion itself, Department of California, has their own VA officers and stuff to help all service members with claims and filing and make sure they get the retirement benefits or whatever benefits that they're asking for. So basically, if the company itself would provide all the equipment, all we need to have is say a couple TVs, and then we have the access, the internet access, and then they do all the rest. And our post itself would actually get, like, say, 43% of the money that we bring in, and that would be at our location. Where the prize money comes from is from all the locations, and if your particular one of your members or one of the people in the audience that we have at our location, they could win a very good pot, depending how many people are playing, of course, for that one particular game. There is sessions. They have like 3 sessions, and I think it's $25 a piece for each session for the chance. And like I say, depending how many people across the state are playing at that time. This would be asking just for one night a week is basically what I was asking for, which would be on a Tuesday night, and it runs from, say, like 4:30 to 9:30.
Okay, Bill, you have a question?
No,
I
my
thought you
questions have been answered.
Kevin?
Yeah, thanks for being here, Dennis. A couple of
Thank you.
questions. Are there any startup cost for your organization? And question number 2, do you have to be present there to play the bingo, or can they do it from another site?
No, you do have to be present there, and it is at our location, and as far as a cost to us, would be, say, for like 2 flat-screen TVs, if we needed 2 in our hall. We might get away with 1, say a 50-incher, and that would do for our room. Our hall isn't that big. And so that's one reason. We tried bingo several years back, but it's not big enough to get not enough people there to make the prize worthwhile. Camarillo High School used to do it years ago. Mayor Mike was telling me about, the Boys and Girls Clubs.
Yeah.
So, but you need someplace big if you're just doing it locally. So, is there anything else?
Yes, I have one question. Oh, I'm sorry, Charlotte, go ahead.
Well, I don't have a question of him. I have a question of either the city clerk or city attorney, but go ahead with your question. But I do want to say, I'm really happy it's on Tuesday night and not taking away our whole audience for our council meetings.
Well, I would like to see our hall packed. Let's put it that way. That's for sure.
I have a question of
Go ahead,
Dennis,
Jen.
if I might. Just to make sure I understand, so anybody can come in, they don't have to be a member of the Legion?
It will be open to the public, and that's one of the rules that Bingo Innovations has. It is pretty, and the penal code, I believe, it is. And what you do is you'll get like a credit card that has a barcode on it. So when you first sign up, then you show that, you pay however much sessions you want to play. It's registered automatically. You receive a stack of cards, paper cards, and you start playing the game. When you yell bingo, they stop it across the state. You walk up with that particular card, and they'll scan it, and it has a barcode on it, and it'll tell them right away if you are a winner. Okay? You do not get paid that night, because the next morning, say Wednesday morning, I take all the monies that we got, we'd put it in an account that they can draw from, and then they send the winners out a check by Friday. I've talked to several of the winners, and they've always received their winnings by the Friday, barring holidays, I'm sure.
Sure. So you do handle cash though, because
Yes.
they don't
yes.
buy those pre-credit card things ahead of time. So
No. This would be as what we handled, and then we're required by them then to turn the money in, I'll say by noon Wednesday, into that account. They can then verify, obviously, that what we had scanned in, that's what they're getting. And like I say, the Post itself would get 43. There's a 20% that the administration for Bingo Innovations actually pull off for doing all this. And then the other 37% is awarded in prizes. So if we had basically for one game, if you had $1,000, you're going to get $370.
So, and then the 43%, do you get to share it here locally, or does it all go to your state organization?
No, we can manage that. It's still under our Department of California as far as that goes, but then we can have it here so it will stay within the community.
It'll do the good work you do.
Satakoy Veterans Home, everything that we do, the 8th graders scholastic stuff, anything that we can do to help our veterans and their families, and that's what it's for.
I was just hoping that you got to stay where you could use it versus sending it off and letting it serve someone.
Right. I know we do. Like I said, we do need to support our Department of California veterans service officers that we have, and there's 3 locations of those. One in Oakland, Los Angeles, right there in the federal building, right by the West LA, and then down in San Diego.
But you would have to do that anyway, whether you had this or something else.
We have donations that go to that anyway,
Right.
so it's kind of.
But the main thing is it helps supplant what you used to have. What was your turkey shoot?
When we were doing our shoots, now, and this, that's 4 weekends a year as far as the actual shoot. But we were making, even with rainouts and stuff, we were making anywhere from $13,000 to say $18,000 that supported us for supporting Boy Scouts, the baseballs games, and all kinds of stuff. Since that got eliminated, we've been in dire needs of funding.
We didn't do it. Somebody else did that.
No.
That was a county. And just to make sure, so I've gone through the process now, and we've, so you sold them the cards, they sit and they watch it, and they yell bingo. So you have to have people there that then say, okay, we've got it, or do they automatically know in Sacramento that somebody won?
No, they have to actually tell, then we need like 2 to 3, at least 3
have to
people working it, and not say just myself or something, because if I'm not there, then somebody else has to know what's going on also. But definitely that they need to say bingo, and as soon as that, the person sitting at the board, I'll say, hits bingo, and then they pause for the verification of the scanning.
Okay, so you're connected by the internet or whatever?
Yes, you're connected right on the internet with it.
I'm giving you an advertisement here if you haven't figured it out, so people are seeing how this whole thing works.
Yeah. It's works very easy. Linda and I went down to Pomona, Ontario, one of them, and she played, I watched. But
She's the lucky one.
it was very easy, and they were, we're talking to them, and there are a couple of them there. They hit very good. So.
Okay, you never know. And then, lastly, is there any monitoring or to make sure that the company's doing what they're supposed to be, or how?
They're all licensed as far as the Bingo Innovation Company. It's licensed. They're protected. The monies there, we would keep like receipts for 5 years, going as far as anything come back, and if we're not paying enough or if they're not paying enough, but it's all pretty much protected.
Lots of records so that.
Yes.
Making sure they're paying your people. Okay.
Bill, you had something to say?
Yeah, I assume this is oversight. There's an oversight department or board or something in Sacramento to oversee this.
They do it right in Sacramento. Exactly where at, I don't know, but I do know that that's where Bingo Innovations are. And I'm sure they're going to have Attorney General's office or something there that's making sure, because they have, like I say, the penal codes for California, they have been approved to do this. So I'm sure there's regulations that they would have.
The operator is regulated by the California Gambling Control Commission. Mm-hmm. So they regulate the operator, and then we issue the local nonprofit permit.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one question, because I know what's going to happen. We were there for the bingo at the Boys and Girls Club when that used to be packed. The whole gymnasium was packed. My wife and several other ladies were up there pulling things and volunteering, but that's been a long time ago. That was packed, and also at the high school, they had great crowds. Mm-hmm. If you start knowing you're going to have even more, and you need room, are you prepared to maybe look at some other place just in case?
The way it stands right now with the license that I applied for is the address of our post. I would actually have to have changed, make another address in that.
Okay.
If one of the other nonprofits in Camarillo, they can do the same. If once the ordinance is passed, they could apply and go through them also. It'd be under a different group or so, but as far as that goes, but it would still be a state bingo game. Let's put it that way.
Okay. So this not only applies to you, but anybody who wants to do the bingo. We set this up. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Any comments?
I have a couple. I'm sorry. I have a question to staff. So do you two?
That's what I had.
Two
when I
questions.
said
Go ahead.
earlier,
Charlotte, you were first when you stuck your hand up.
Yeah. I'm not sure how this works. So when, if people want to have both kinds of bingo, are they going to have one bingo permit or two?
Well, if this passes, we will have to revise our application forms. And my thought was that they could apply, if they're applying simultaneously, they could on the form apply for both types of permits at the same time, and we would just process them as one. And then they would have a permit that allowed them to play bingo or also remote caller bingo if that's what they applied for.
Okay, so it's one fee.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Other comments, motions?
I have a question of staff. In your staff report, you referred to this as an additional fundraising tool for nonprofit and other organizations. That other organization is?
Mobile home park associations, senior citizen organizations, and charitable organizations affiliated with a school district.
So there's
With
still,
what? I'm sorry.
The school district.
School district.
so they're still all, quote, nonprofit, just under different code sections.
Yes.
So a business can't start up and do this very clearly. Okay. Then
That particular item and what Jeffries here just said was that it's on the existing form you have right now on if you're having on-site game. And in this case, you're not really on-site, but I mean, you are on-site, but the drawing is held off-site. And there is a notice in there on the existing form now for bingo.
And then my last question is to the city attorney. I know that when you write ordinances and you write contracts and everything else, you always add the, which is on big page 24, section 4, your severability clause. Can you explain to me why you would say in a case like this that one piece can stand and the other can't? Don't you need the whole thing to make this thing work?
Well, suppose that a court would review the ordinance, and the ordinance is patterned after the Penal Code section 363.3 that's in your packet. So this ordinance, the provisions of it come from that state statute.
Okay.
So suppose a court would find, for whatever reason, that one portion of that ordinance was unconstitutional. This is kind of hypothetical. But if they did, and then said that the remainder of the ordinance can remain in effect, then that's what the purpose of the severability clause is, so that we wouldn't be in a situation where we would have the entire ordinance thrown out just because one of 25 provisions of it was found by a court to be either in violation of a state law or the Constitution.
And I understand that, and I understand that's why you put it in here. But this is an ordinance that has 4 sections, and I personally wouldn't want to have the ordinance without 1, 2, 3, without all 4 sections, or 5 sections.
Well, if that is the feeling...
To me, they all go together.
Well, they do, and the likelihood that a court is going to strike down a portion of this ordinance is remote, but it could happen, which is the purpose of the severability clause. But if it is certainly not, the severability clause is not necessary for this ordinance. It could come out. It is put in this ordinance as it is in the standard for our other ordinances, because if we do have an ordinance that accomplishes, if it accomplishes 90% of what it's intended to do, just because one section is stricken, we would not want the entire ordinance to go down.
And I agree with you, it probably wouldn't happen, but it just seemed funny in a case like this where there was so little to it to say that you can take part out and it still all stands, because they really all go together.
I agree with that. It's unlikely that it would happen, but it's possible.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, Mr. Little?
It seems to me that if that happened, then I think the city council could determine at that point in time whether operate the ordinance with the severability of some portion of it, or just simply repeal the entire thing.
And that is true.
But the problem is something could happen and it wouldn't necessarily come to us, or we wouldn't hear about it. That's what I'm kind of...
Surely if a court decided that our ordinance was unconstitutional, we'd be hearing about it.
That's the whole ordinance, not one little tiny piece of it. I'm okay either way. It just seems strange to make a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion. Mr.
Reading of the
Mayor?
title?
Reading of the title.
Reading of the title.
I request a reading of the title of the ordinance.
This would be Ordinance 1031, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Camarillo adding Chapter 5.49 to the Camarillo Municipal Code, authorizing and establishing regulations for remote caller bingo.
I move to waive further reading and introduce the ordinance adding Chapter 5.49 to the Camarillo Municipal Code, authorizing and establishing regulations for remote caller bingo.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is second. Please vote. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you all very, very much. Our post will be delighted.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Be prepared. You may have to, you may have to relocate if it gets that big. Now we have a closed session. Mr. City Attorney, would you like to address that, please?
Yeah, there's one closed session that we might get to in the 6 to 7:30 session. That would be a conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2. The number of cases is 1. And the other closed sessions would be later. I could announce them now or announce them later, whatever you wish.
We'll look at later.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we save our comments? We have no public session this evening.
We have 20 minutes.
You know, we have plenty of time, Mr. Mayor. If we can get through those comments, then it'll make life a
If you
little bit
wish.
easier.
City Manager, you have any comments?
No comments, Mr. Mayor.
City Attorney?
No comments.
City Council, let's start with Kevin this time. Kevin?
Attended 3 meetings, the Airport Authority, VRSD, and Investment Committee. And just a question, Dave, would you mind kind of giving me an update on the slurry seal and how it's going on and throughout many parts of our city, if you will?
Yes, we're in full force out there with the slurry seal, as you're probably well aware, and we've been hitting some of the challenging areas, and with pretty good success. There has been, as we've indicated and expected, some inconveniences and delays to traffic, but we've just recently finished Ventura Boulevard from Lewis to Carmen, and continuing on from Carmen westward for the remainder of this week. Not Friday. There won't be any work Friday, which is good timing in case we get some rain, hopefully. So we're continuing to finish out Ventura Boulevard all the way to Las Posas. And there's a few other locations that we'll be finishing up. We're getting close to the end of actually putting the slurry down. Now we have a lot of striping that is going to be being put back on. So we're making good progress. And while the weather's favorable, we're trying to get as much slurry down as possible.
I have a question. As you're on Arneal Road and you're heading what I call towards Camarillo Heights, I've noticed that the striping is a little bit crooked there. I mean, it's not a big deal, but I've just noticed it's a little bit wavy there. Does that make a difference as far as whether or not the code and various other things with that?
Well, certainly we can take a look at that. Specifically, it's
at the Arco gas station at the corner of Arneal and Ponderosa, heading towards the Heights, if you will. I've just noticed it's a little bit, it's not quite as straight as some of the other areas. It's not a huge deal, but I'm just curious as to whether or not.
Yeah, no, we can definitely take a look at that. If it's something that needs to be fixed, the contract will need to take care of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's all. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Bill? Yes, a couple of things. Following the last council meeting, Mike Morgan and I attended a business visit here at City Hall with Oasis Technologies, and that was very interesting. The following day, I attended the presentation that the Point Mugu staff and put on down at the Civic Center, advertising their new, or introducing their new findings for the air installations compatibility use zones. And they gave me a brochure of it. Essentially, this is really an air noise study for the Point Mugu facility from the standpoint of aircraft noise, and as it radiates out, and I think we're all familiar with the Camarillo airport study similar to this. And essentially, what they found is that their air noise is substantially closer to the base than it was in 1992 when the last study was done, essentially because of the type of aircraft that are no longer, there's no longer any Hornets, or if there are, they're in and out. So it's a different type of aircraft, and they're quieter. So I'd like to give this to some. I think maybe you should have it, Joe. And
Getting rid of those fighters was a good thing.
Yeah.
letting
Anyway,
them,
they're going
letting them go to Lemoore.
They'll probably be coming to us to ask us to for comments and so forth. So anyway, it's very interesting.
Thank you, and I want to let you know I attended the open house on this as well.
Okay. Attended the Adolfo Camarillo birthday event at the ranch last Sunday. Very nice. There was a nice crowd, and I think, Mike, you were there, and and it was very nice. I think you were there, weren't you? Yeah. Following that, I went over to Padre Serra, and they were having a fundraiser on the parking lot, a bake sale for the raising funds for the 4 children that were orphaned as a result of the domestic violence incident we had in Mission Oaks. And I mean to tell you, there was a huge crowd there. There was several hundred of people there that I stood in line for an hour waiting to get up from where I started to getting some baked goods. And but I also was asked by some interested party who was putting this on to announce there's going to be a garage sale this week, October 28th, this Friday and Saturday, for the same purpose of raising funds. It's going to be at 1199 Lucerno Street, Camarillo. 1199 Lucerno.
Could you say that the street's name a little clearer?
Lucerno.
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 Lucerno or Lucero?
Lucero. Maybe it's flowers. Lucero.
I think we have a Lucero. I don't think we have a Lucerno.
It's, but it's the 28th and 29th from 7 a.m. to noon, and those all proceeds will go to benefit the children of the people that were deceased. So, and finally, along with other council members, I attended the Camarillo luncheon, visit Camarillo luncheon yesterday at Spanish Hills. Very interesting. They seem to be making very great progress in a very short period of time. And apparently the results are showing up in our bed tax receipts. So good work. That's it.
Charlotte?
I just have 4 things. I, too, think the streets are looking great. And an older gentleman who's close to 100 who had been concerned, and when he first got the notice, and I had him call staff because he was very concerned that he wouldn't be able to get out during the paving. He came up to me the other day and said that his daughter was there. She had been here and stayed with him. I guess she came from out of town during this time just to make sure everything went fine. And they were absolutely amazed that their street was never closed. There was always a way you could get out of the street. And not only was he impressed, but his daughter from someplace up north, had never seen anything like that, and they congratulated staff on the way they made sure the operation went. So, good job. I did attend a Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Authority meeting today, or agency meeting today. Not nearly as exciting as the meeting last month. And I, too, attended the Visit Camarillo.com luncheon the other day. I should have brought my blue sunglasses that they handed out. But if you go down to their office at the Chamber of Commerce, you can get one. They're quite snazzy looking blue sunglasses. And they have visitcamarillo.com on the temples. And I also wanted to remind everybody that especially, I guess we don't know yet, but whoever is going to be on the legislative committee next year, that the Contract City's 50th annual legislative tour in Sacramento, anyway, it comes out to SLOT. I forget how they say it. The acronym is SLOT, Sacramento something legislative. I don't know what the O stands for. I'm searching here. They don't say.
That's your January meeting?
That's the January meeting. It will be January 9 through 11 in Sacramento. So mark your calendars if you're interested in going. That's all I have.
Jan?
Yes, I too want to compliment you on your streets. They're looking good. A little update on Santa Rosa Road. Are we still moving along on that one?
Yes. So they've put down the base paving out there. The median is complete. As far as the curb goes, they're putting in the irrigation for the landscape portion within the median. I believe they're getting ready to pour the stamped concrete at the narrow portions of the median this week. And as I mentioned, base paving is being finished up with looking at next week or the following week completing the entire paving up and down. So that's moving forward. There's the wall work is pretty well done. There are some you maybe see some patches, some touch-up work that's being completed on the wall itself also, and they'll continue to finish up the work down at Adobe, and so then more irrigation and landscaping coming along. So it's on schedule to be done near the end of the year.
So by the end.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
So really, within a couple of weeks, they'll be into the landscape phase.
Yes,
Will
right.
really be the
Right.
most of it done.
Yeah.
Very good.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Can I, how the landscaping going to be maintained on the upper level of that wall?
There's access on the ends of the wall to be able to walk up there,
Oh,
up to that bench area, and then that access there will be available to maintain the landscaping on that bench.
okay. Thank you.
Very tall people.
Any more? Real tall.
I do have a couple more. Yeah, really. Either that or tightrope walkers so they can not fall off the wall. I was going through my piles of things that we collect at the conference, and I came across this one that I did not want to lose. But when we go to do Disdar Park, I want to make sure this gets in the file. It's a really neat company that will design playground equipment and equipment in parks in a theme. So if we do a fire house theme in that park to acknowledge the fire department there, you give them a picture and they'll actually build it in the shape of a fire truck or whatever it might want to be. So I think it would be a really fun thing for that, especially because we want it to be a showcase down there. My last thing is I think before we meet again, we will have voted in this country, so I want to urge everyone to take the opportunity to do your patriotic duty and get out there and vote. And I certainly wish everyone good luck. It takes a lot to kind of put yourself forward and put yourself out there to run for office. And for those of us who've done it, know it takes a lot of time and effort. So good luck to the two of you down there. It's your turn to be out there, and it's the American way. So we hope everyone gets out and votes.
That's it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, as usual, there's a whole lot of stuff that went on. First, we had a ribbon cutting at Service Masters over off of in the Dawson area, and they do cleanup for disasters. For instance, you have a break in the cement and in your house, and water comes up. Well, they come and do all that stuff. But it's not just that. It's anything that's disaster-related cleanup in our city, and they've done a good job. That's why they're expanding. Secondly, I went to Livingston Nurses. Remember the ones that we give to sometimes, the Livingston's Nurse? They kept calling, wanted somebody to represent out there. So I went to Somas, and they had a party with a lot of people that donate to them. That was a nice little party, and they thanked us. Airport Authority meeting, we had that also a week and a half ago or a week ago here in the City Hall. So that was nothing disastrous happening or anything that needs to be reported. Time Warner. I was on 10 minutes on Time Warner. 10 minutes goes like that when you start talking about water. And that's what she wanted to talk about a lot. And I was able to say we are so happy because we had our desal plant, passed and all that good stuff. And now we can work on it. So that went real fast. Dave Smith. Dave Smith is a city councilman, former city councilman here. And he had 2 terms. Dave retired from his job. So he invited a bunch of us up to Spanish Hills. And he was funny because as they talked, and his brother said he's going to come out in a new uniform. This is what he's going to be doing in the future. See if you can guess. I'm trying to think of the Salvation Army because he can't be in the armed services. And he comes out as a comedian. And he did some jokes, a lot of jokes. It was funny. And so he's going to look at maybe working with Mr. Love over there at the place at the gallery. Some places like that. So we'll see I can't wait to see what he does because he's such a low-keyed accountant type. He just doesn't fit that, but he did that day. He was funny. Webelos. Webelos came through here, a bunch of them, and they were so happy at the end of it because they learned a lot. They've already sent me a letter thanking me for doing that. The DART team. Now, the DART team, I'm kind of like the liaison for the DART team, and I'd like to invite you guys to come to a meeting sometime. We're doing like first aid training. Last week was the, what would you call it, was the CPR training, and you get a little certified. But the next meeting, I'm not sure which one, it might be the next one, it's going to be a first aid training where you can come and learn first aid and all the different things. If you're interested, contact me so I can let them know you're coming. EDC-VC, we met, and we had a gentleman make a long presentation about how they've been doing. We're one of the 31% of all the Southern California, us and Santa Barbara, we have been loaning that much money out compared to the others. 31% of it. They've been doing a great job. And so it's growing, it's doing a good job for it. They show how many jobs they created and all this stuff. So EDC-VC and Mr. Stinsley should be congratulated when you see them because they're doing such a great job. Ribbon cutting at Fit Journey Studios. Now that's down by your store, Kevin, down there at the end. And when you first gave us the address, it was down there. But when I got down there, they made a mistake. It was back over this end. But they're going to be where you can work out now, Kevin. Just walk down the street.
After you visit See's Candy.
I'll need it.
And then we talked about Oasis Technology. Oasis Technology has been here before and talked to us, and they've just grown. Bill, you were with me, right?
Yeah.
They have grown a lot. And they anticipate, I can't remember, how many employees they have now?
60
60
some odd.
And they started out with just a few. They've got 60 now, and they're going to continue growing. They've got a device that we're using to make sure our city's using to make sure that our IT system is protected. And it goes in front of another one, in front of the one you hook up with to protect your system. But that doesn't always work, and this is a very new system that they're spreading. So look out for Oasis Technology. We had a funeral for Tony Gray. How many of you know Tony Gray? Okay, Tony Gray is the leader of the Filipino Association for the county. And he's been doing that for a long time. You know him, Dave. Raise your hand. Anyway, for the whole county. And he's really been a neat guy. And he had a full house over at St. Anthony's in Oxnard. It was packed. Investment committee. Kevin and I were in the investment committee. And it was a pretty good little presentation. They're going to come back to us in the future with possibly another mode of investment mode that we're looking at, as long as it stays as safe as we are now. Camera birthday party. Okay, that was fun. I know it says 500 people, but that was a lot of fun. We did something this time we've never done before. I asked the docents if they'd invite all the family. All the family means a lot of people. Everyone from Kevin, you'd know, Pettit's and the Fitzgeralds and the Longos, and it keeps going. Hernandez's.
Parkers.
And Parkers and the Marvels. Now, Marvels are tied in with Pettit family. But they are still grandchildren or whatever. But there were a lot of them there that day. And so I asked them to stand up. And Parker, who owns 2 white horses, he's the president of the White Horse Association. And Heidi, they brought 4 horses for us. 2 of his, 2 of hers. And I asked anyone that'd like to find a place to put up their horses, or his horse, because he's got them in Glendale. He'd rather have them closer up here. And he did get 2 responses later out of that group. And hopefully it's family members. We can move along. He also told me on the side, he said, Mike, I think I might go down to Joel McRae's place. And the barn that belongs to the Canal Valley Park and Rec. Yeah. Okay? They could put them in there. But I said, go talk to them. That's a place to put them. That's close by. Tourism Association luncheon. That was good. We've gained 14% in our lodging, 14% upward, in our money we've made from our lodging, which is significant since that's come aboard. Well, anyway, I won't go on. I'll just let you know those are some of the things I went to. But without any further ado, we will recess and then come back after the study session.
Okay.
For those who don't know, we don't have much more on the agenda. Cambria City Council, please come to order. Please stand for the flag salute. Ms. Craven, can you lead us in flag salute?
Please rise, place your hand over your heart, and join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Time for public comments. And our first, I've got some cards here. First one would be Judy Alfeld. Alfeld? Judy? Judy?
Jeffrey's going.
Oh.
Oh, I can't hear.
That's okay, Judy, they're calling you.
I can't hear very well.
She wants to try, she said. Take your time, Judy. Judy, take your time.
My name is Judy Alfeld, and I've been disabled since 2010. I really can't walk very well, and I can't drive. I suffer from a lot of junk. Anyway, I have had numerous problems with Dial-A-Ride. They either don't show up at all, and you've made a reservation, or they don't pick you up when they say they will. Sometimes they've been very late taking me places where I need to go, which is usually a doctor's office. I've been at City Hall 3 times, and they are discussed my problems with Dial-A-Ride with the proper people, and no one has ever offered any kind of solution to the problems I've had, or attempted to resolve my problems in any way. So, let me tell you, it's in my opinion that, one, as a disabled person, and two, as a longtime citizen of Camarillo, that you all, as our elected city council members, need to make a decision, okay? We're either going to have a bus where people get in, or make stops everywhere, people get off, people get on, etc. Or we're going to have the Dial-A-Ride service we used to have, that is where they would come and pick you up and then take you home when you needed to. Now, let me tell you what happened to me several months ago. I called Dial-A-Ride and told them that I needed to be at the Amtrak station at a particular time. So I even asked for them to pick me up 30 minutes earlier just to make sure I would make the train. I only live 3 or 4 miles away from Amtrak. Well, soon I started noticing that on my watch that it was 10 minutes before Amtrak was supposed to come. And so I immediately told the driver, you gotta get me to the Amtrak station. I explained to him that I had instructed the person I spoke with at Dial-A-Ride that I needed to be there at a specific time, and the driver told me they never told him that such a thing. Now, today, Dial-A-Ride, I had called a couple days ago and made the reservation for Dial-A-Ride to pick me up this morning for a doctor's appointment at 10:50. They decided, not me, they decided they would pick me up at 10:20. Well, the lady was late getting to my house, and then I noticed on the way there she dropped off 3 other people. When I got to the doctor's office, I was told by the medical assistant that I was too late and would have to reschedule an appointment. Okay, that upset me greatly, but then also, how do you think I was going to get home? No, but Dial-A-Ride wasn't sitting there waiting for me. I don't have a cell phone because I'm hard of hearing. So I didn't have a cell phone to go to Dial-A-Ride, so I had no. I didn't know how I was going to get home. Now, I'm respectfully requesting that a prompt solution to all these problems I've just described to you be taken care of and a decision be made. How are you going to do? How are you going to take care of the citizens of Camarillo that are disabled or they can't drive or whatever the problem is? My position and need for a ride is not going to ever change. This is how it will be for the rest of my life. And I appreciate you listening to me, and I would appreciate anything you could do to take care of this, because it is a big problem for people like me. Thank you.
Judy, I'd like to take, Judy, I'm going to have staff talk to you. Okay, not at all.
I can't hear, so.
Okay.
I can't hear anything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Why doesn't a member of
Did-
staff go down and talk to her?
And take the information down, find out what this was, and find out from Dial-A-Ride what happened? Can you do that?
Yeah, go down and talk.
You may have to talk loud. Is she here with someone?
You know about their address, and she needs to understand. We'll look at it.
Can you feed to her what we're trying to say? Can you tell her what we're trying to do? Have staff find out the information?
Go out in
so
the
we
foyer.
can go ahead and get this finished?
About Dial-A-Ride. They want to get the information.
What information?
What do you need?
Well, he'll talk to you.
There's a young gentleman that's with her. You're welcome. There's a young gentleman that's with her.
Wow.
So sad.
Melissa Padwarski. Hope I got that right, Melissa.
Yeah, you did. Hi. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Melissa Padwarski. I've lived in Camarillo since I was 12. I'm 31 now. I do a lot of work around the city just trying to help out. I'm asking for your assistance in getting a response from Pleasant Valley Recreation Park District. There is a massive beehive that is in the lights fixtures that needs to be removed. I have sent an email to Matt Parker on Friday and got no response. I walked into the City Hall on Friday as well to get further response. Jill Gordon sent an email to Mary Audit, still no response, and we are now on Wednesday. I have been working on this project to get this beehive removed for several months now. I am concerned for the children. I understand you guys have jurisdiction over only 2 parks in Camarillo, and I was told when I walked into the City Hall that I will receive assistance from you guys in helping to get a response from Pleasant Valley Park District. I have worked with Pleasant Valley Park District for many of years on one thing, was trying to replace a missing equipment. My son was 2 years old at the time. He is now 6. It took them 4 years to replace that one missing piece of equipment. It's not acceptable. I was corresponding old-fashionedly through phone because I'm more better with corresponding through phone. I have no records of when I started corresponding about the beehive. Now I'm going to go by emails because I need proof that nothing is getting done. And also, I was told that Matt told me himself that he was looking into it. Either he was going to be removing it or he was going to have it in the next month's budget. I would please get a little bit more time to finish.
Go ahead.
Also, I feel that it's a hazard because the bees are just growing. The beehive is growing and growing and growing. And I understand it's only going to get bigger because I had one on my property and Daily Drive, and my manager decided that he wasn't going to remove it, so it's just getting bigger and bigger. This one is getting bigger and bigger because I've been checking on it, and once it gets too big, it's going to fall out of your light fixtures. And then what's going to happen when there's children present and they start swarming? Are we going to do the blame game and say, that's not part of my park, that's not my jurisdiction, so are they going to blame, you guys going to do the blame game back and forth? To me, it's not acceptable. I am a mother. I have a 6-year-old son. We go to that park very often.
What park are you talking
What
about?
park is it?
Valley Lindo Park. Sorry, I didn't state it.
Yeah, 'cause
Have you talked to their board?
I've been working with them, yes.
Well, you talked about employees. Have you talked to their board? They have a meeting just like we do.
No, I haven't talked to their board.
That's the one to talk to, right to their board.
I went to Mary Audit, and I spoke with Mary Audit, and I'm aware that she's the head, and I'm getting no response. So what board would you like me to talk to?
On Thursday night, they meet right here every, fourth Thursday?
Wednesday nights.
Wednesday. The fourth Wednesday, I think it is. And they meet right here.
This is the fourth
We meet the
Wednesday.
fourth.
I'm sorry, it can't be the fourth. Yes, they do.
The first Wednesday of every month.
First Wednesday of every...
But they won't be here next week because we will be.
So I'm not sure where they'll be next week, but you can call them and ask them the next meeting because we had to shift because of the holidays.
And the board is Mary Otten's boss.
Okay.
Yep.
I would like our staff, though, if our staff asks the question, and I would like to know from them what their response they got from Parks and Rec.
I actually called Mary's office today based on your email, Melissa, and thank you.
You're welcome.
And Mary was off-site today dealing with some other issue. I was not able to talk to her personally. I gave Melissa's concern to the secretary that took that. I will call Mary again tomorrow and just explain to her the seriousness of the situation. I know they know about it. I think it's a matter of priority for them, but certainly, Melissa, if you speak to their board, which is like the city council, then you've got 5 elected officials that should be very interested in your problem, as we are too. However, we lack the jurisdiction and responsibility to be able to remove that hive. So I will work it with Mary, you work it with the board, and hopefully we can make things happen.
Sometimes beehive owners like to come and get those bees.
Yes, you're right.
Okay? And it doesn't really cost you anything because they're going to take your bees and use them.
And I understand they're in danger, and I
Yes.
understand we need to get them to a safer place where they can, but it doesn't need to be in the presence of children, because if any teenager decides to knock that beehive down, you guys are going to have a major lawsuit on your hands because someone stung that is allergic.
Just understand, when they tell you, it's a big word, when they say the park isn't under our jurisdiction, that means we don't own it. We are a completely separate government agency from the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District. Their elected officials, their board, they get a different set of taxes than we do. We're completely separated. That's what not under our jurisdiction means. So it isn't our liability or our responsibility or our lawsuit.
Right.
So it's theirs.
Of Camarillo are not your responsibility? Is that what you're trying to tell me by?
No,
What I'm telling you, you said somebody would sue us, and I said you sue the property owner, and we don't own the property.
Right, but your citizens are your responsibility.
You heard what he said to you about how we're following up?
Yes,
We are concerned about you.
I understand.
And so we're trying to help you. But we're trying to give you advice to go on to the next step.
I will go on
Okay.
to the next step. I will take it.
Good.
I will take it further. But I just thought I could get assistance from you to help me. That's why I'm here. I'm not.
You just did.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. I was just addressing it to her because she was trying to tell me that it's not in the jurisdiction. So I was just asking for assistance.
What have you done? I'm curious. Who have you reported the beehive at your property that your manager's not dealing with to?
It was removed. It was removed.
Oh, you said it wasn't. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
It wasn't at the time because it got bigger and bigger. So that's why I'm telling you I'm aware of the situations with beehives because I've seen one grow numerously on a property. So I know how big they can get. So I'm just telling you I'm aware of the situation of what's happening.
Bill?
I think our city manager may be able to resolve this too with the conversation
Absolutely.
we have with the superintendent and the
Yes. Yes, and I will be following up on it, and I will be going to the next step, and I will see what we can get.
Good.
But thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. I just was trying to get some assistance because I get no response.
You can also go to their website, and they have all of their boards, and you hit the button under their name, and you can email them directly.
I just did on Friday, thank you.
Okay.
And I got no response, so that's why.
From any of the board members?
Yes, and
They
that's
may
why
not
I'm
have
here.
got the email yet. It's a
Yeah.
possibility they didn't get the email
Okay,
yet.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you. Matt Lormer.
Good evening. You have a copy in front of you. I'm going to read a statement here. Mr. Morgan, you said the Fiesta did not receive money from the city for the last 4 years. What I've given you is a list of the Fiesta payments with their dates according to the city clerk. The Fiesta received $11,000 in July of 2014, just as the embezzlement was happening, and $5,000 in May of 2015. Mr. Morgan, you were wrong. The game of the sound bites and not stating the facts is incorrect. Why has the council not enacted rules? The council members should not sit on nonprofit boards that receive the funds. You know, that gentleman was sent to prison. It's time to have some new rules. We've been talking about it. You guys have had some time. I'd like to see when you're going to have a study session, when you're going to get around to doing that, so it's important. Next thing I want to talk about is recently it's come to my attention that the new owner of the Camarillo Springs Golf Course is planning to close the golf course and develop the property. As I understand it, residents have already reached out to you regarding a deed restriction forcing it to stay a golf course. Once again, the city has not responded to the Camarillo Springs residents. Communication with Camarillo residents are critical when issues like these come up. They should be addressed. It's real important that that be addressed. And it shouldn't be hidden from the public. It should be brought up. I'd appreciate that being dealt with. You know, the next thing I want to talk about is, when people run for elections, I know some of you have taken developers' money. We have people in election cycle that are taking money from developers. I think we need to have some new rules in this area. I don't think you should be taking money from developers. It's a sensitive issue with the public. I think it's important to enact some new rules. The public, this is a big thing. As you're aware, we have several measures on the ballot. I'm for J and C, basically. I'm against F. But this is something that's real important that we do have a conversation about. One last thing I'd like to talk about, again, I've talked about it last time. We are in a holiday season. If you're drinking, please do not drive. Have a designated driver. Again, it's good to remind the public. I'm going to do it every month. It's really important that you have access to somebody to take you home. If you're a bartender and you're serving alcohol in this community, be responsible. If that person seems a little bit tipsy or it can't drive, be responsible. Call a taxi, call a friend. Just do the best you can do, because I appreciate it. We want everybody to go home this holiday. Thank you very much. Do you guys have any comments?
No.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to respond.
I'm going to ask you to respond to that, please.
Thank you very much. On Friday, I responded to Camarillo Springs residents who contacted the city regarding the letter they received from Chameleon Springs LLC about the possible reuse of the golf course. On Monday, I emailed the Camarillo Springs HOA board with my response, and our response is that we will be having a meeting with Camarillo Springs LLC representatives within the next couple weeks to understand what they may be proposing or what they want to do with the property, but no decisions have been made about the conversion of that property. And everything that does happen with that property will be done in an open public meeting. So we are not hiding the ball. We're very transparent with those people out there, and they have a right to know what's going on, and we are sharing that information as soon as we get it. Thank you very much.
Yes, Mr. Little.
I had a call today from...
You're not on, Bill.
Turn your mic on.
Yeah, right there, that light there. That green light needs to be on.
No.
There you go. I think you're on.
I had a call today from a lady at Camarillo Springs who claims that there is this 99-year-old deed restriction, and I advised, she claims she knows who has it, and I advised her to get in touch with you, the city manager, about that if she could get it.
And thank you very much. We would appreciate seeing that if that document exists. I know I instructed my staff last week to begin due diligence and search our files for such a document if it does exist. Thank you.
Lastly, sorry, did you want to say something? Okay.
Doesn't it have to be recorded if it's a deed on the restriction on the...
I would think so.
Yes.
Yeah, you would think so.
Lastly, we've all had calls from the leaders of the area out there and responded in the same way. This is something it's completely new to us. Someone that wanted to come in here and change properties, that happens all the time, that they want to do, but they got to go before the public. They got to go before us for a long hearing, public hearings, and that's not necessarily saying we're going to let them do it. So I'd hate to have someone come in here and think that we're doing that kind of thing and put it out there in the public, and we're dealing with the leaders out there in that park, letting them know we're keeping up on it, making sure they know what's going on and so on. Now, our last speaker is Jim Paulson. Jim? This is a good one, Wells Fargo Bank.
Yes, Mayor Morgan, members of the City Council, my name is Jim Paulson, 1852 Duane Avenue. I come before you to voice my concern with regards to Wells Fargo Bank. When the collapse of our economy happened in 2008, exactly 0 individuals were held to account. Wells Fargo, since then, opened up 2 million fraudulent accounts upon unsuspecting Wells Fargo customers. CEO John Stempf has resigned his position at Wells Fargo and, according to media reports, received a golden parachute of approximately $124 million. My point here is action by Wells Fargo have demonstrated to me that Wells Fargo has used extremely poor oversight of its banking operations. It's sending a signal to some up-and-coming young professional that, well, Wells Fargo got away with it. Why can't I? It's troubling. The reason I'm here tonight exactly is to encourage the city of Camarillo to cease all financial relationships with Wells Fargo. If the city does have a banking relationship with Wells Fargo, I'm sure a local regional bank could step up and fill that void. Thank you.
I think we can, do we have a relationship?
Director of Finance will respond.
Good evening. Staff researched that today, and we do not have a banking relationship with Wells Fargo.
We used to, but we changed it.
Yep.
What, about 10 years ago?
Yep, at least 10.
Problem solved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I have no other cards this evening. Any further comments from City Council? Seeing none, I guess we're adjourned.
No.
Nope, whoop, wait. What do we have left?
Recess.
We got to go back.
I do need to make an announcement with regard to a further closed session this evening. That will be on a public employee performance evaluations. The authority is Government Code Section 54957. The title of the positions, City Manager and City Attorney.
Okay, now we'll recess to closed session.